Welcome back to the SDG Action Zone. Excellent. We are continuing with our UN Digest. These high-level lightning talks provide insights into ways in which UN agencies are taking the SDGs forward to really accelerate action into the decade of action. So we are very excited about our next speaker. She is Executive Director of UNFPA, the UN Sexual and Reproductive Health Agency. She's a doctor who's committed over 30 years to public health, primary health care, and to listening to young people. Please welcome Dr. Natalia Kanem.
I am marching to Nairobi. 25 years ago, the world made promises related to population and development at the historic ICPD, the International Conference on Population and Development, which took place in Cairo. In 1994, UNFPA began to connect the dots that today we know as the Sustainable Development Goals, and we led the charge in saying that population is not about numbers, it is about people, and in particular, that development is centered on the fate of women and girls. So true today, and since that ICPD conference 25 years ago, the world has made a lot of progress on sexual and reproductive health for women, for adolescents, for that 10-year-old girl who is wondering what is going to happen to me. I am happy to say that 25 years later, death in pregnancy has fallen almost by half, 44%. I'm also pleased to say that other indicators, lifespan, the ability of a young woman in Africa, Latin America, Asia, to be able to access contraception that she needs to plan, family planning, helping her to plan her life, has increased substantially. And in fact, the average family size for a woman 25 years ago was about 6 children per woman, which would have been fine if she had been able to survive pregnancy and deliver a healthy newborn. Today, choice has expanded. Rights to sexual and reproductive health have expanded, and she now has, on average, about 4 children. However, I am marching to Nairobi along that continuum from Cairo on November 12th to November 14th of this year. And the reason that I'm marching is because I would like to zero out the barriers that stand in front of women and girls. My first zero, UNFPA says we should have contraceptive access freely and respectfully to anyone who wants it. We should respect the person who comes through the door. We should make sure that we are listening to her and that the method of modern contraception fits her needs. That first zero, ending the unmet need for contraception, represents 200 million plus women today. They're practically all in developing countries who want to access the means to plan their fertility. It takes partnership to get there. And when you do get there with that planning, poverty decreases. The potential of a young person can be fulfilled. SDG 17 for partnership, SDG 1 for ending poverty are very linked to SDG 3 for universal health coverage, which we succeeded in ratifying here at the UN this week. And certainly the next zero, which is ending maternal mortality, ending deaths during pregnancy and childbirth is really vital to my friend who lives in a rural area. She may be living in a small island community. There is no reason for preventable deaths to be the leading cause of pregnancy, the leading cause of death among teenage girls in the world today. There is absolutely no reason for the transportation, for the antenatal care, for the vaccines that a young woman needs not to be readily available. And I thank the midwives of the world, because midwives save lives, and they're able, along with nurses and doctors, to get to that last mile and make sure that no one is left behind. So for my second zero, ending preventable deaths during pregnancy and childbirth, I'm excited about that 44% drop. But I do not want to wait another 25 years to get to where the SDGs are bringing us. So I am marching to Nairobi to declare an end to preventable deaths. Now, the third zero is one that is pervasive and inescapable, and this is where we need all hands on deck. Every single person, regardless of gender, regardless of location, regardless of sexual diversities, regardless of ability, whether you are young or old, the zeroing out of sexual and gender-based violence has to come to a stop, and it comes to a stop now. So my third zero is part of human dignity. It's SDG 5 on making sure that when we say equality, it means equal respect, it means living a life of peace, SDG 16, and being confident when you walk into the world that you are going to be acknowledged and respected for who you are, no matter who you are. And I would like to show you a dignity kit that, along with partners, in this particular case, UK and UNFPA, we bring even to the most dismal places where, if you're menstruating as a young girl, if you are in need of a safe delivery, in this dignity kit, we have, it could be a blanket, or in this case, it is a shawl, or you could also wear it if you need to, right? And wait, because dignity also has to do with hygiene. There is underwear, there is a toothbrush, I think I have the toothpaste that goes with it. This is a light which is solar powered, and so if I have to get up in a refugee camp and walk to the latrine down the row of tents at night, my solar powered flashlight is part of my safety and protection. And they're also, depending on the need, we have ones for newborns, we have soap. Sometimes the dignity kit is actually a bucket, so that you can actually put things in it and carry it and wash if you need to. When we speak about dignity, we're actually talking about a fundamental human right. And in this era, when we're aiming for 2030, the safe spaces that UNFPA and our partners run for victims of assault, for women who have walked and walked to shelter, the safe spaces that we provide, and sometimes they're called, for example, Shantikana, when you're in Bangladesh with women who've crossed from Myanmar. That safe space, that social worker, that nurse, that helping hand from your community is decorated beautifully by women who need that sense of peace in their heart, hopefully in their home, and certainly in the world today. when I march to Nairobi, and I'm inviting everyone to join me, physically there with the 4,000 people who will come to this extraordinary stakeholder meeting, or in your own community, you can march with me. I will not be alone. The President of Kenya, President Uhuru Kenyatta, will declare his commitment to action. And this SDG Action Summit is telling us it is time to act. And his commitment will be to put an end to female genital mutilation in his home country of Kenya. And that's going to be an example for girls worldwide. And for the rest of us, that leadership makes a difference. And you don't necessarily have to be the president of a country to lead. We can lead from where we are. Denmark will co-host this conference, coming with a commitment for both financial and political support for the 3 zeros that I've described. The business that we started in Cairo 25 years ago comes to fruition in Nairobi, but it doesn't stop there. It has to enter every town, every city, every country, and the world. So we can finish our goal of making sure that women have control and agency over their fertility to decide whether and with whom to become parents of a child, if she wishes. We can do something about needless deaths in pregnancy. And for every woman that dies, there are countless others who suffer injuries. And lastly, I am calling on women, men, girls, boys, people across the spectrum of gender to make your voice heard in Nairobi next month, to say we have solidarity and we together are going to bring an end to the type of violence that ruins lives and futures. I'm delighted to be marching with so many young people who have shaped the agenda, but that agenda continues on into the future. Action. Action on the Sustainable Development Goals is going to make this a better planet. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Dr. Natalia Kanem. How fantastic was that? And I have to ask you, how do we support your efforts if we can't make it to Nairobi to march with you, but want to be action-oriented on your behalf and for those young women, and all women?
There are 3 actions that are really important. One is to look at the 3 zeros through the lens of your home community. Even in a wealthy, developed country, women die during pregnancy.
Absolutely.
Access can often be a question of cost for contraceptives, but there are barriers also, because we shame and blame young people. If a teenage girl that you know is pregnant, I want you to become her friend, and I want you to defend her from stigma and shame and all these other things that are going to make her life unviable, and also the next generation. As we lift each other out of poverty, we've got to connect all of the dots along the SDGs. And the third thing I would like you to do is to consider literally marching with me on Sunday, November 10th, when prior to the Nairobi summit, hundreds and hundreds of women, girls, everybody will be marching in Nairobi, but we would like you to march with us in your community as well.
Fantastic.
We're marching.
Does the march have a name on
It's
November 10th?
the March for Women's Power and Peace.
November 10th, the March for Women's Power and Peace. Do it for Dr. Natalia Kanem
Yes,
and all those women.
thank you so much. It's
Thank you
delightful
for
meeting
being with us. How great are our UN Digests?